working?
Welcome everyone to Billboard's second annual Brands and Music discussion. I'm Andrew Hamp, I'll be your moderator today. Thanks for joining us. To my left we have Patience Ramsey with Translation, Jonathan Daniel with Crush Management, Camille Hackney with Atlantic Records, Lars Ulrich of Metallica, Jennifer Fromer of SFX, and Steve Pamon of Chase. I spoke a lot with last year's panel about what the music industry can do to get a bigger share of it where ad dollars are going in music and entertainment right now. Because live music sponsorships and events took in about $1.28 billion in 2013. The top 4 sports leagues alone took in $12 billion, so that's a big gap. So this year, especially because we have an artist with Lars, I want to talk a little bit about how we can improve the process. Lars, I want to start with you. What are you looking for in a potential brand partner? When does it make sense for Metallica or yourself to work with a brand in some capacity?
First of all, most things come to us. We don't necessarily hunt them down. We don't really have a policy. We just sort of evaluate each thing that comes our way. Not much happened with us probably up till the mid-90s. The first things that we sort of even started taking seriously were stuff that was more music-based. Obviously, in our case, we have to evaluate the credibility of the brand that comes in, and is this somebody that we want to be seen dancing with, and we just take it, you know, sort of case by case.
Let's just talk a little bit about, you know, where the industry is in right now in terms of the core elements and why we need brands more than ever. I mean, Camille as a label, you know, just recently Billboard reported that, you know, we had record lows in terms of weekly album sales. So obviously labels more than ever need alternate sources of revenue. Talk us through a little bit about your role at Atlantic as well as Warner globally in overseeing brands and the role that they play at the label.
Sure. So as EVP of brand partnerships, I obviously look after our artists and deal every day with agencies, with folks from brands, really to try to find that right pairing between the artist and brand. I've been doing it for a while, and we used to work together back in the Electra days, and so been doing this for a while and just seen sort of the growth and the need for it actually, the pairing to happen and to make some magic. And a lot of it is about the promotion that comes for the artist, whether it's a major sync and the millions of dollars in media that an advertiser will spend that the labels don't spend, that can help get exposure for an artist's new song or new project. Sometimes it is a revenue conversation, and sometimes it's a bit of both. We really kind of evaluated artist by artist. I mean, it's been a fantastic time to be in the business and just see how brands are coming together. Like that Chase is sitting here at the table and we're talking about music and banking, I think is pretty incredible and sort of speaks to the growth of the pairing of music and brands.
Absolutely. Jonathan, at Crush, you manage a roster of artists that include Sia, Fall Out Boy, Train, Travis McCoy, and Gym Class Heroes. At what point in the process are you talking to brands?
I like artists that are wildly ambitious, and wildly ambitious comes with, you know, but artists all have their own integrity, so, you know, each artist is different, and an artist like Fall Out Boy or Train that wants to be like on the radio by any means necessary and huge by any means necessary, there's a lot of brand talk. With an artist like Sia, who she's ambitious, she likes to do things, but she likes to do things in an artistic way. She's not, she's not against brands, but there's not as much of a tie-in with her. You know, it's not that interesting to her. You know, we did a Samsung spot with Hey Soul Sister. The band was well paid, but even if it was free, it was so big for that song. That song became the biggest song of the year. And I don't know if it becomes the biggest song of the year without that spot, you know, so.
That's right.
I'm more into get the music out by any means necessary than, hey, what's the check?
Jennifer, you come from a label background in Interscope, and now you're at SFX. Tell us a little bit about what you're developing for brands in the EDM and, you know, festival space at SFX, and how that differs from what you were doing at Interscope.
Yes, being at SFX is very different from being on the label side, because on the label side, to Camille's point, you're looking for opportunities that are artist by artist, and as well as it can be major promotion. For example, that Train Samsung spot, I was so jealous of that. I wanted that for one of my artists at the time, and I was close, and you beat me, so thanks. And so you look at things with that lens on: how much exposure am I going to get for my artist? How many units or tracks will it sell? Now, not units. How many tracks will it sell? How much exposure will I get for the song? Whereas at SFX, we've amassed many festival properties, and we also have a very large digital and social footprint. So we're developing concepts that the festival becomes the physical manifestation of what we can do from a digital and social perspective. So from working on the label side and working on the artist side to working more on the promotion and festival side, I find that sometimes concepts get lost, and it's more about the deal, and it's not so much about the concept and the creative. What's really interesting about SFX is because we own all these properties and we can come up with ideas that are artist agnostic and property agnostic, we can really break the model in terms of how can we utilize content to live across, it could live in the form of this water glass. It really can be, the idea has to lead, and then you can slide it into any sort of physical manifestation or digital manifestation.
And Steve, at Chase, you guys have kind of placed a big flag in the game this summer with your sponsorship of Jay-Z and Beyonce's On the Run tour. Tell us a little bit about what was important to you about making that move, and maybe why we might see you guys.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's fairly straightforward in that for us, it actually has nothing to do with the content, it has to do with the consumer. Right? And so getting in an increasingly competitive environment, which banking and financial services is these days, you have to attribute your brand not to necessarily the quantitative functions, right, that come and go as commodities. You have to associate with a lifestyle. And one of the easiest ways to associate with a lifestyle is to associate with music. I think the key thing that prevents us from, being honestly as big as we could be in it is the organization of the music industry. We've had 16 to 17 different people come and try to represent the same thing. And this is the biggest takeaway, and then I'll get to just a pet peeve. So one takeaway, one takeaway and one pet peeve. Okay, the biggest takeaway I want people to understand with this is that sponsorship means support, right? When you look in the dictionary. It's not about us supporting you, it's about you supporting us in exchange for money. And I think often the first meetings that I have in the music business, I'll hear about, well, here's the band's objective function, here's what we're trying to do. And I sit there and be like, actually, that's great as a fan, love it, right? But as a business, actually what you have to tell me is, how does it support us? So I have to tell you, Rock Nation did a hell of a job with the tour, because one of the first things they did was sit down and say, what are you guys trying to accomplish? Yeah. And
that
just that
should always be the first
just
question.
That question alone,
yeah.
was the tour right there. Yeah. Because once I know that, then it becomes business. It just becomes a matter of, am I paying enough to justify the return on that investment we have? And the pet peeve, which Camille knows, I really feel like, hey, if I invest in the National Football League with a deal, I can tell you September 4th, the Green Bay Packers are going to be playing the Seattle Seahawks at 8:30 Eastern Time, regardless, unless there's an act of God, right? We will support concerts, and we do about 1,000 events a year. About 40% of them are music related. I can't tell you the last time I've seen a ticket that said presented by Chase from a musical act, that quite candidly where the musical act played at that time. And so when you think about it, right, true. I have to fit quite candidly, right? Even
we always go on
who are you dealing with?
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, he's got a deal right now. Because the truth of the matter is remember, all of these sponsorships fit into a larger marketing paradigm within a large corporation, which quite candidly is planned out in the future. We're planning 2015-16. And so to the extent you can say you reduce uncertainty by saying, look, we're going to do something on this date at this time for this amount of money, you have a better chance of having a fruitful conversation than if you say, well, on or about the fall of. Right.
But I mean, that's
the reality of the business.
And it is, I always like to warn brands who are sort of new to the music business, sort of buckle your chin strap, like it can get a little bit rocky, but that's my job, that's Jennifer's job, that's Patient's job to kind of manage that process. And creativity can be a little bit wild, and it's unexpected, Absolutely. It's capricious, it's not on time. Like
you're not dealing
with all of those things.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, that gets to the point.
It should be.
Album releases are my biggest pet peeve.
Yeah.
Always in the
But all my shots.
But I think. Yeah, good point. Well, no, but what Camille's saying is actually a very important point. That's why you see brands adapt, right? Because we adapt to consumers. The more consumers want us to be involved, the more adaptation you'll see from us. But I do want to iterate, when it works, man, it works.
Right.
So you're talking about, again, a Jay-Z Beyonce tour. I remember literally being in Soldier Field in Chicago, looking over the crowd And I had never seen, and I've been to a lot of events, the emotional reaction
For sure.
that those fans had with the two of them on stage together. And so those are the moments where you talk about connecting with brands. Those are the things that pay for every single one of this. So, you know, as business people, we have to get beside all of those things and make sure we're aligned with them. You know, if the process was easier, absolutely, you know, you get more money. But the same token, I mean, it's just a fundamental law of the way things work.
Right.
However, I will say this, part of the reason why brands like the brand I represent are so excited about the space, because you guys all know this, there's something magical when it all comes together, and there's a feeling you cannot replicate with anything. And so we're chasing that holy grail, and we just need your help to get there.